There are stories in Hollywood that shimmer with glamour, tales of red carpets and golden trophies, of lives lived in the dazzling spotlight. But then there are stories that run deeper, stories that echo with pain and perseverance, stories that remind us that even the brightest stars are not immune to the shadows. Keanu Reeves at 60 stands as a living paradox, a man whose face is known to millions, yet whose soul has been shaped by heartbreaks that most of us could scarcely imagine. His journey is not just the story of an actor, but the odyssey of a man who has walked through fire and emerged not unscathed but unbroken. From the outside, Keanu's life might seem like a dream. He is Neo, the chosen one who bent reality in the Matrix. He is John Wick, the relentless avenger who carved his pain into legend. He is the rare Hollywood icon who has managed to remain both relevant and revered across decades, a feat few can claim. But behind the myth, behind the carefully controlled smile and the quiet humility, lies a tapestry woven with loss, loneliness, and the kind of sorrow that leaves scars invisible to the camera's lens. It is easy to forget when watching Keanu dodge bullets or dismantle armies that the man behind the roles has endured more than his share of suffering. His story begins not in the glow of Hollywood, but in the turbulence of a fractured childhood. Born in Beirut to a British mother and a Hawaiian Chinese father, Keanu's earliest memories are not of stability but of absence. His father Samuel disappeared from his life when Keanu was just 3 years old, leaving a void that would echo through the years. His mother Patricia did her best to hold the family together, but the ground beneath their feet was always shifting. New cities, new schools, new stepfathers who came and went like passing storms. For Keanu, childhood was a lesson in impermanence. He moved from Beirut to Sydney, then to New York, and finally to Toronto, each relocation a reminder that nothing lasted, that home was a concept as fragile as glass. He struggled in school, not because he lacked intelligence, but because dyslexia made every page a battlefield. Teachers mistook his restlessness for rebellion, and classmates saw only a boy who didn't quite fit. Hockey became his refuge, the ice rink a place where he could be the wall, a goalkeeper who stopped everything that came his way. For a while it seemed like hockey might be his future, a dream he clung to with the desperation of someone who had lost too much already. But fate, as it so often does, had other plans. At 15, a devastating injury ended Keanu's hockey ambitions in an instant. The one thing that had given him a sense of belonging was ripped away, leaving him adrift once more. It was a cruel lesson in the fragility of hope, a reminder that even the things we love most can vanish without warning. Yet, even in this loss, there was a strange kind of grace. The end of one dream opened the door to another, and Keanu found himself drawn to the stage, to the world of acting, a world where for the first time he could transform his pain into art. The early years were anything but glamorous. Keanu scraped by on odd jobs and small roles, his name often mispronounced, his talent overlooked. He lived in bare apartments, stretched every dollar, and faced rejection after rejection. But there was something in him, a quiet resilience, a refusal to give up, that set him apart. He was not interested in shortcuts or easy fame. He wanted to earn his place, to prove that he belonged not just to Hollywood, but to himself. It is this quality, this stubborn endurance, that would come to define Keanu Reeves. In a city that devours dreamers, he survived by holding tight to his integrity, by refusing to let the world harden him. And as the years passed, as the roles grew bigger, and the spotlight brighter, he never lost sight of the boy who had learned early on that life could change in an instant. The tragedies that marked his youth did not break him. They forged him, shaping him into a man whose gentleness is not weakness but hard-won strength. As Keanu's career began to gather momentum, the world started to take notice. There was something magnetic about him, a vulnerability beneath the surface that set him apart from the typical Hollywood leading man. His early roles in films like River's Edge and Permanent Record revealed a depth of feeling that could not be faked. Critics and audiences alike sensed that the pain in his performances was not just acting, it was lived experience, channeled through the lens of art. But even as his star began to rise, the shadows of his past were never far behind. The late 1980s and early 1990s brought both triumph and turmoil. Keanu's breakout role as Ted in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure made him a household name, but it also threatened to trap him in a box. The Airhead label clung to him, and for years Hollywood seemed unsure of what to do with an actor who was both soulful and sincere. Yet Keanu refused to be defined by anyone else's expectations. He sought out roles that challenged him, that allowed him to explore the full range of human emotion. In My Own Private Idaho, he delivered a performance of raw vulnerability alongside his close friend River Phoenix, a friendship that would become one of the most meaningful and ultimately tragic relationships of his life. River Phoenix was more than a co-star. He was a kindred spirit, a brother in arms against the chaos of the world. Both men came from fractured families, both carried wounds that never fully healed. Together they found solace in each other's company, a rare sense of belonging in an industry built on illusion. But fate, relentless as ever, intervened. In 1993, River Phoenix died of a drug overdose outside the Viper Room in Los Angeles. He was just 23. The loss shattered Keanu, leaving him adrift in a sea of grief. He spoke little of it publicly, but those who knew him saw the change, a deepening of the quiet sadness that had always lingered in his eyes. It is one thing to lose a friend, it is another to lose a soulmate. River's death was a wound that never truly healed, a reminder that even the brightest lights can be extinguished in an instant. For Keanu, it was a lesson in the impermanence of joy, a lesson he would be forced to learn again and again. Yet even in the face of such devastating loss, he did not retreat into bitterness. Instead, he carried River's memory with him, allowing it to inform his work, to deepen his empathy, to remind him of the fragility of life. The mid-1990s saw Keanu's career reach new heights. Speed catapulted him into the ranks of Hollywood's elite, and The Matrix would soon make him a global icon. But with success came new challenges. The demands of fame were relentless, the scrutiny unending. Keanu, ever the outsider, navigated this world with a kind of quiet grace. He shunned the trappings of celebrity, choosing instead to focus on his craft, on the work itself. He was known for his generosity on set, for his kindness to crew members, for his refusal to let ego dictate his actions. In an industry notorious for its excesses, Keanu remained grounded, a man who understood that true greatness lies not in accolades but in character. Yet, even as his professional life soared, his personal life was marked by tragedy. In 1999, Keanu and his then-girlfriend Jennifer Simi were expecting their first child, a daughter they planned to name Ava. The anticipation was palpable, a rare moment of hope in a life so often defined by loss. But fate, merciless as ever, intervened once more. Ava was stillborn, a heartbreak that left both Keanu and Jennifer devastated. The grief was overwhelming, a pain that defied words. Their relationship, already strained by the pressures of fame and sorrow, could not survive the weight of such loss. They drifted apart, each carrying their own private agony. Just 18 months later, tragedy struck again. Jennifer Simi died in a car accident, leaving Keanu to mourn not only the loss of his child, but the woman he had loved. The double blow was almost unimaginable, a cruelty that would have broken a lesser man. But Keanu, shaped by a lifetime of hardship, endured. He did not seek solace in the spotlight, nor did he use his pain for publicity. Instead, he retreated into himself, finding comfort in solitude, in the quiet rituals of daily life. In the aftermath of such profound loss, many would have turned away from the world, seeking refuge in isolation or distraction. But Keanu Reeves, ever the quiet warrior, chose a different path. He poured himself into his work, channeling his grief into performances that resonated with a rare authenticity. The pain he carried became a wellspring of empathy, allowing him to inhabit roles with a depth that few could match. It was as if every heartbreak, every disappointment, had prepared him for the characters he would bring to life, men who struggled, who suffered, who fought for meaning in a world that often seemed indifferent to their pain. The early 2000s marked a new chapter in Keanu's career. The Matrix trilogy transformed him from a respected actor into a cultural phenomenon. As Neo, he became the face of a generation, a symbol of rebellion and hope in a world increasingly defined by uncertainty. The physical demands of the role were immense, months of martial arts training, grueling wire work, and a punishing schedule that left him battered and bruised. Yet Keanu never complained. He approached each challenge with the same stoic determination that had carried him through life's darkest moments. Even when a serious neck injury threatened to derail production, he pushed through the pain, refusing to let down the cast and crew who depended on him. But the cost of such dedication was high. The relentless pace of filming, the constant pressure to deliver, took a toll on his body and mind. Keanu's health became a quiet battle, one fought away from the cameras and headlines. He learned to live with pain, to accept the limitations of a body that had been pushed to its limits. Yet, rather than resent these hardships, he embraced them as part of his journey. Each scar, each ache, was a reminder of what he had endured and what he had overcome. Off-screen, Keanu's life remained marked by solitude. He was often seen alone, riding the subway, sitting on park benches, moving through the world with a kind of gentle anonymity. Unlike so many of his peers, he shunned the trappings of fame, preferring the company of books, music, and quiet reflection. His acts of kindness became the stuff of legend, gifting motorcycles to stunt teams, donating millions to children's hospitals, helping strangers without fanfare or expectation of recognition. For Keanu, generosity was not a performance, but a way of life, a means of honoring the memory of those he had lost, and of giving meaning to his own survival. Yet, even as he cultivated a life of simplicity and service, the specter of tragedy was never far away. In the early 2000s, his beloved sister Kim was diagnosed with leukemia. The news was another blow, another test of his resilience. Keanu put his career on hold, dedicating himself to her care. He spent countless hours at her bedside, offering comfort and support, refusing to let her face the battle alone. His devotion was unwavering, a testament to the depth of his love and the strength of his character. When Kim eventually went into remission, it was a rare victory in a life so often defined by loss, a moment of hope that Keanu cherished with quiet gratitude. Through it all, Keanu's relationship with the world remained complex. He was adored by fans, respected by colleagues, yet he seemed to exist at a remove, as if he were always slightly out of reach. There was a mystery to him, a sense that no matter how much he gave, there was always a part of himself he kept hidden. Perhaps it was a form of self-protection, a way of preserving the fragile core that had survived so much. Or perhaps it was simply the nature of a man who had learned early on that life could change in an instant, that joy and sorrow were forever intertwined. As the years passed, Keanu continued to work, choosing projects that spoke to his soul rather than his bank account. He returned to the stage, explored music with his band Dogstar, and even ventured into writing, co-authoring a book of poetry and art. Each endeavor was a reflection of his restless spirit, his refusal to be defined by any one role or identity. He moved through the world with a quiet dignity, a living reminder that greatness is not measured by fame or fortune, but by the courage to keep going even when the road is steep and the night is long. Despite the relentless hardships, Keanu Reeves never allowed tragedy to define the totality of his existence. Instead, he became a master of contrast, balancing the weight of sorrow with moments of unexpected joy, and the solitude of loss with acts of profound connection. This duality became the essence of his public persona, a man who could embody both the haunted loner and the hopeful hero, both on screen and in life. It is this contrast that has made his story so compelling, so universally resonant. For every tale of heartbreak there is a counterpoint of resilience, for every moment of despair a glimmer of hope. As the 2010s dawned, Keanu's career entered yet another remarkable phase. The world had changed, and so had Hollywood. Many of his contemporaries faded into the background, their stars dimmed by time and shifting tastes. But Keanu, ever the outsider, found himself at the center of a new phenomenon. The John Wick franchise, which began almost by accident, reignited his career and introduced him to a new generation of fans. The role was tailor-made for him, a man haunted by loss, driven by love, and capable of extraordinary endurance. Audiences saw in John Wick not just a character, but a reflection of Keanu himself, a survivor, a fighter, a man who refused to be broken by the world. The physical demands of John Wick were even greater than those of The Matrix. Keanu threw himself into the role with characteristic intensity, training for months in martial arts, firearms, and stunt driving. He insisted on performing most of his own stunts, enduring countless injuries and pushing his body to its limits. Each film became a test of willpower, a battle not just against fictional adversaries, but against the very real limitations of age and injury. By the time John Wick Chapter 4 was released, Keanu was in his late 50s, his body bearing the marks of a lifetime of sacrifice. Yet he never complained, never sought sympathy. Instead, he treated each new challenge as an opportunity to prove, to himself and to the world, that he was still capable of greatness. But the true power of the John Wick films lay not in their action sequences but in their emotional core. Beneath the violence and spectacle was a story about grief, about the search for meaning in a world that often seems senseless. Keanu's performance was imbued with a raw vulnerability, a sense of longing and loss that elevated the films above mere entertainment. Audiences connected with the pain behind the character's eyes, recognizing in him the universal struggle to find hope in the aftermath of tragedy. In this way, Keanu transformed personal suffering into collective catharsis, offering viewers not just escapism but a mirror in which to see their own struggles reflected. Off-screen, Keanu's legend continued to grow. Stories of his humility and kindness became viral sensations. Photos of him giving up his seat on the subway, videos of him helping stranded travelers, anecdotes of his quiet generosity to colleagues and strangers alike. In an era obsessed with celebrity scandal and self-promotion, Keanu's refusal to play the game made him all the more beloved. He became a symbol of authenticity in a world that often feels artificial, a reminder that true greatness is measured not by what we take, but by what we give. Yet, even as he inspired millions, Keanu remained acutely aware of his own mortality. The years of physical punishment had taken their toll, and the specter of aging loomed ever larger. Injuries accumulated, recovery slowed, and the demands of action stardom became increasingly difficult to meet. Keanu faced these challenges with the same quiet acceptance that had defined his life. He adapted his routines, embraced new forms of exercise, and learned to listen to his body's warnings. There was no bitterness, no sense of defeat, only a deep gratitude for the journey he had traveled and a determination to make the most of whatever time remained. As he approached his 60th birthday, Keanu found himself at a crossroads. The world still clamored for more films, more appearances, more of the magic that only he could provide. But for the first time, he allowed himself to slow down, to savor the simple pleasures that had so often eluded him. He spent more time at home, surrounded by books, music, and the quiet company of those he loved. He reflected on the path that had brought him here, on the losses that had shaped him, and the resilience that had carried him through. In the quiet sanctuary of his Los Angeles home, Keanu Reeves began to discover a new kind of peace. The house itself was a reflection of his spirit, unpretentious, filled with light, and open to the world yet somehow private. Here, away from the relentless demands of Hollywood, he could finally breathe. The koi pond in the courtyard, the lap pool stretching toward the horizon, the gardens where silence gathered at dusk, each detail was chosen not for show but for solace. It was a place where grief could soften, where the body could heal, and where the soul could rest after decades of storms. For Keanu, this retreat was not an escape from life, but a return to its essence. He spent his days reading, writing, and making music, often with his longtime band Dogstar. The joy he found in these simple pursuits was a reminder that happiness is not found in the roar of the crowd, but in the quiet moments that so often go unnoticed. He cooked meals with friends, walked through art galleries with his partner Alexandra Grant, and found comfort in the rhythms of ordinary life. The man who had once been defined by loss was learning at last to embrace the possibility of joy. Yet, even in this newfound tranquility, Keanu remained deeply connected to the world around him. He continued to support charities, often anonymously, and to use his resources to make a difference in the lives of others. His Foundation for Cancer Research and Children's Hospitals, established in honor of his sister Kim, remained a quiet testament to his enduring compassion. He gave generously, not for recognition, but out of a genuine desire to ease the suffering of others. In a culture obsessed with self-promotion, Keanu's humility was a breath of fresh air, a reminder that true kindness needs no audience. As he entered his 60s, Keanu's relationship with fame became more nuanced. He understood its power, but he no longer allowed it to dictate his choices. He appeared at premieres and public events when necessary, but he avoided the endless cycle of interviews and social media that consumed so many of his peers. Each appearance was deliberate, each word carefully chosen. He valued his privacy, not out of arrogance but as a form of self-preservation, a way to protect the fragile core that had survived so much. The world, for its part, responded with a kind of reverence rarely seen in the entertainment industry. Fans respected his boundaries, colleagues admired his integrity, and journalists marveled at his ability to remain both accessible and enigmatic. Keanu had become more than a movie star. He was a symbol of resilience, a beacon of hope for anyone who had ever felt broken by life. His story was a testament to the power of endurance, to the possibility of healing, and to the quiet strength that comes from choosing kindness over bitterness. But even as he found peace, the tragedies of his past were never far from his thoughts. The loss of River Phoenix, the death of Jennifer Syme, the battles fought alongside his sister Kim, these memories lingered, shaping the man he had become. Keanu did not run from his pain, he carried it with him, allowing it to deepen his empathy and inform his choices. He understood, perhaps better than anyone, that grief is not something to be conquered, but something to be lived with, a companion that changes shape, but never truly leaves. This acceptance gave Keanu a unique perspective on life. He approached each day with gratitude, aware of the fragility of happiness and the inevitability of change. He cherished the moments of connection, the laughter shared with friends, the quiet evenings spent in reflection. He knew that joy and sorrow were two sides of the same coin, that one could not exist without the other. In embracing this truth, he found a kind of freedom, a release from the need to control or predict the future. As the world watched him age, Keanu became a living example of how to grow older with grace. He did not hide the lines on his face or the silver in his hair. He wore time honestly, without vanity or regret. His body, marked by years of stunts and injuries, moved with a careful dignity, each step a testament to the battles he had fought and survived. In a culture that worships youth, Keanu's acceptance of aging was a quiet act of rebellion, a reminder that true beauty lies not in perfection, but in authenticity. As Keanu Reeves crossed the threshold of his 60th year, the world paused to reflect on the journey of a man who had become more than just a star. He had become a symbol. His story, marked by unimaginable loss and unwavering resilience, resonated far beyond the boundaries of Hollywood. It was a story that belonged to anyone who had ever faced heartbreak, anyone who had ever struggled to find meaning in the midst of chaos, anyone who had ever wondered if it was possible to heal after being broken. In Keanu, people saw not just an actor, but a mirror of their own hopes and fears, their own battles and triumphs. The tragedy of Keanu Reeves is not simply in the losses he has endured, but in the way he has chosen to carry them. He has never sought pity, never used his pain as a shield or a weapon. Instead, he has allowed his suffering to soften him, to make him more compassionate, more generous, more attuned to the struggles of others. He has turned wounds into wisdom, scars into strength, and grief into a force for good. In a world that often rewards cynicism and self-interest, Keanu's quiet decency stands as a powerful counterpoint, a reminder that kindness is not weakness, but the highest form of courage. This is perhaps the greatest lesson of his life, that tragedy, while inevitable, does not have to define us. We can choose, as Keanu has, to let our pain deepen our empathy, to let our losses teach us gratitude, to let our struggles make us more human. It is a lesson that has found its way into every role he has played, every gesture of generosity, every moment of humility, whether he is dodging bullets as Neo, avenging love as John Wick, or simply offering a seat to a stranger on the subway. Keanu embodies the truth that greatness is not measured by what we achieve, but by how we endure and by how we treat others along the way. In recent years, Keanu's life has taken on a quieter, more contemplative rhythm. He continues to work, but on his own terms, choosing projects that speak to his heart rather than to the demands of the marketplace. He has embraced new creative outlets, from music to writing to visual art, each one a testament to his restless curiosity and his refusal to be defined by any single identity. He spends time with Alexandra Grant, a partner who shares his love of art and his appreciation for the simple joys of life. Together they have built a relationship rooted in mutual respect, creativity, and a shared understanding of what it means to survive and to thrive. For his fans, Keanu's journey is a source of inspiration, a reminder that it is possible to find light, even in the darkest of times. His story encourages us to keep going, to keep hoping, to keep believing in the possibility of redemption. It reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles, that even those who seem to have it all are fighting battles we cannot see. In a world that often feels cold and indifferent, Keanu's warmth is a beacon, guiding us toward a gentler, more compassionate way of being. As he looks to the future, Keanu does so with a sense of acceptance and peace. He knows that life will continue to bring challenges, that loss and pain are never far away, but he also knows that he has the strength to face whatever comes, that he has already survived more than most could bear. He moves forward with humility, with gratitude, and with a deep appreciation for the beauty that can be found even in the midst of sorrow. In the end, the tragedy of Keanu Reeves is not a story of defeat, but of transcendence. It is the story of a man who has turned suffering into compassion, who has transformed loss into love, who has shown us all that it is possible to rise again and again, no matter how many times we are knocked down. At 60, Keanu Reeves stands as a testament to the power of endurance, the grace of humility, and the enduring light of hope. His journey is far from over, but already it is a legacy that will outlast any film, any fame, any fleeting moment in the spotlight. It is a legacy written not in gold but in the quiet, indelible ink of a life well lived,